Welcome back to Let Us In Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about women.
I'm Crystal, aka Creepin, it's spooky.
I'm Justine, aka JustineUFF.
I'm Emma, aka Emma of the Impact.
I am Juliet, otherwise known as FilmScum 2.0 on TikTok.
Okay, so the new Hellraiser, I'll save my personal opinions on it. I love the
I haven't
Hellraiser.
seen it yet, so you go ahead.
But I felt like I keep seeing reviews that have the elevated horror term in it, and it makes me want to like rip my
I've
hair
never
out.
seen that.
It just makes me so angry because it's like, because they're mad because they're saying that that the film is, quote, trying too hard to go into elevated horror, which I think I completely disagree with.
I
don't
also
think that
disagree.
it is like what would be considered. I don't really agree with the term elevated horror, but
You guys keep going. I have something to show you. You guys keep going. I'll be right back. It has to do with this. You guys keep going.
I think I just enjoyed it.
I loved it.
Yeah, like it was
I loved
fun,
it so
and I
much.
got all the nostalgia, and when the music
so
comes up,
beautiful.
it's just great.
Oh, it was so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Oh, the production
It
design
was
was
sexy,
gorgeous.
color story, the palettes
that's-
they chose, the design,
Yeah.
all of it. I fucking saturated in it. I loved it. I lived it the whole time. I could not stop watching it.
Well,
And I get
something that-
distracted so easily.
I think comes up in terms of women in horror. Obviously, the new Hellraiser or the new Pinhead is a woman, and a thing that I have been, which I think is interesting, thing that I've been seeing a lot recently is they were like, it wasn't as sexy as the original film. It's not sexy enough, and I'm wondering.
I thought it was sexier, actually.
I personally thought that, but I'm wondering if it's like, is it because it is from a different gaze that came that?
It's interesting because I feel like people are reacting the same way that people reacted to the Evil Dead reboot.
Yeah.
When Evil Dead came out in 2013, a lot of people immediately rejected it because it was not what they expected it to be, like the Evil Dead originally was. And nobody really liked
they
it.
did with it.
I loved it. The first time I saw it, I was like, oh, it's so beautiful.
First time
Why
I
is it
saw
so
it,
beautiful?
I was a
Like, and it
film
was
bro
so
about it.
scary. And I was just like, oh, I love this so much.
I
loved it.
In terms of remakes, I feel like remakes should be original takes. They should be new things to find. It's not just rehashing.
They're
the
never
same-
gonna please
Of course,
anybody.
the best one,
Yeah,
my
exactly.
favorite of, and I think it's just such a great example of how stories can be retold and enhanced, is the new Suspiria. I love the new Suspiria stuff.
Same.
Yeah,
same.
it was such a good remake.
But
I think
the
the
thing
Hellraiser
I
is
was
getting
looking
that
for,
same treatment, though.
which I don't know why I'm sure it's going to be backwards, but it's the new independent prestige horror, and it's by David Church. I don't know if it's online as well. This is a great university printed. There's one about queer horror. There's one just about masks, religious horror. Great book series that have a lot of really great writers in it. But it has a great discussion about the mix of prestige horror and horror fans that are also like, oh, there's people that like A24 movies, and then there's real horror fans. It's like, why do we have to be one or the other? And why is there like this? And it also talks a little bit about classism from both sides. It's an interesting read.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's people who reject things or have ideas about how things should be when they go into things. I do it too. I have this, I think about things before they happen and wonder how I'm going to feel and imagine it. And I watch trailers that inform my thoughts. I read reviews sometimes that inform my decisions, critical reviews or pre-screening reviews. And then I'll go into it and I will just try to enjoy a movie. And that doesn't make me elitist. I'm just really good at turning my brain off when I watch a movie sometimes. And I think that benefits me and why I like a lot of trash horror, trash films sometimes, or over commercialized garbage that some people really viscerally hate. I love. I'm okay with that. The new Hellraiser, I hear some of the takes I hear, I don't get personally. And that's okay. Some of them are good. They're not bad takes. I think some people complain that Pinhead and the Cenobites didn't have enough oomph in delivery. Like they didn't have enough good lines or
the first one either. They're not in it that much.
But like the Cenobites had some really good one-liners. That was pretty much the 80s. That's the 80s. In the new one, they didn't. And that's fine. I didn't miss that. I didn't miss that at all because to me, they were ethereal. They were haunting and their presence was so felt. I felt their presence all the time. Whenever that Configuration was out and about, I was like, oh no.
The men's configuration, unless they renamed it. I don't know.
Oh, there's more to it. It's really cool. I love
know they
that. I love
stab
that
people with it.
addition. I love the addition of the configuration stuff. That was really
The
neat.
lament configuration.
Speaking of actresses and women in
watch
horror,
it.
I think that little actress that played the main, her name's Odessa, I can't remember her last name. I think she's going to be a force in horror coming up. I thought she was fantastic in that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I thought she was great. She's beautiful. She delivered well. For someone to deliver through snotty, teary face
I know,
throughout the entire
right?
movie, really difficult. And she did it, and I felt her. Like some people found her annoying, and I didn't get that. But okay, if you think, and some people didn't. Again, here we go into the wokeness. They didn't like the fact that she was a drug addict. And that was like a focus of the story, and like addiction was. And it's like, do you not know what Hellraiser is about?
Yeah.
Because it's literally about hedonism, isn't it? Did I miss, or am I wrong? Am I wrong? Is it not about hedonism?
And addiction are different things, but I do understand. I do see the connection.
I think
they're
like,
separate, but they have a connection.
Yes. Yeah.
I feel like it's like your point, Justine. I feel like that's the most lukewarm of what quote unquote woke could be, is like talking about drug addiction.
I cannot wait for you to watch the new Hellraiser and give us your take, Emma, because I'm actually not sure how you're gonna feel. Not sure how you're gonna feel about it, because I understand some complaints. I do. I'm not saying you can't not like this movie. I'm just saying I don't get the takes I've heard yet, because they didn't impact me that way. I understand the idea of like the Cenobites not getting enough like oomph, like, because it's a different atmosphere, in my opinion.
I feel
it's like comparing Ash and
Frank
Mia.
had more one-liners in the first one than any other character. Come to Daddy. Jesus wept. That was Frank. That wasn't a Cenobite.
Yeah.
Although that I think it is the first one, and I think it's one of the only one-liner, if you want to call it that, is we will tear your soul apart. Is pretty much
it's the delivery. So if you watch the new one, her delivery of lines and then the way that they talk is very ethereal and like whispery, and like it's a different vibe. It's a whole different vibe.
No one's gonna be Doug Bradley. So why should they try to even be like Doug Bradley? They should do something different. And
I think that's just a difference that they didn't like. It's why they didn't like it. They prefer the original because of that.
It was different. I haven't seen it, so
I don't think it's a bad opinion. I just think that is a take I don't mind. The takes I do dislike are the ones where they're like, she's a drug addict and annoying. Like, how would you be? I'm curious, because right now you're annoying in a mundane situation. How would you be with the Cenobites? Oh, and do you say Cenobites or Cenobites?
I call them Cenobites, but only because I feel like they were like the little talk of
Cenobites.
I only call them Cenobites because that's what Clive Barker calls them.
Oh.
What does he call them?
Cenobites.
Cenobites? Oh.
But I want to spell it with a Y.
I say Cenobites because Kino.
They spell it with an I, but it should be with a Y. Yeah. Crystal, what do you say?
Oh, you're talking about the bite part. Okay. She also says bean, so I don't know why we're asking Crystal.
Okay.
And mine in particular, which I'm so glad that I haven't talked about any types of these movies on my TikTok, because I feel like someone's going to say something about it. But I don't pronounce the L in wolf, so like werewolves, which is totally.
Wait, I don't even know if I do. Werewolves. Am I saying it right? I don't even know.
I don't know if I do either.
Cute, like werewolf.
Werewolves.
I love a werewolf. A werewolf.
Werewolf.
The boy who cried wolf. I'm sorry. I make fun of the way they talk too.
I get made fun of all the time on my TikTok of how I speak.
I'm a huge fan of Midsommar, so I would love to hear it.
So what happened? Let me give the lore of this whole thing.
Love the lore.
What happened was there was a very popular creator who I think I personally think unintentionally, made an inflammatory video surrounding Midsommar about feminine. And do I think
Sorry.
that it was the way it was worded was correct? No, I think that it was very inflammatory, but I do think it was.
Wait, what was the? I'm sorry. What was the message? I saw one person talking about the white supremacy that's present in it, and then
that
people
was it.
saying,
That
well,
was it. I think.
And it was a guy, right?
Yeah.
Growing up is realizing that
Yeah, it was
Midsommar
that.
So I don't think he
about
was
white
wrong, but I'm
supremacy.
just saying that there's other things too.
But that's the thing is that there is that Ari Aster. I've gone through so many extensive like deep dives into interviews with him about this film because it's been
about a breakup.
On my page. People will tell me that I am saying it wrong, or that I interpreted it wrong, even if I don't even give an opinion on it, just because I'm a woman and they see me as a woman and they see me talk about Midsommar and they assume you are wrong because Midsommar is about race. And it's like, oh my God, women of color exist. Thank you. That's part of the commentary. But like,
I saw a woman of color talk about it.
It's more than one thing. Oh my God.
And Ari Aster has confirmed that it is both things.
He has.
And I think what has happened is people have taken that video that this creator did not intentionally mean to be inflammatory and are now using it to be misogynistic on TikTok towards women that talk about Midsommar.
And vice versa, though. They've also used it to attack him like he's misogynistic.
Absolutely.
And like he's not. He's a mutual of mine. And I talked to him about this. And I was like, look, dude, I get what you were saying because I follow you. Yeah. And I know that when he talks about stuff, he's talking about it from his point of view and his perspective.
And I think he just worded it wrong. I think honestly that was the thing. And that's the issue with TikTok is like there's no room, unfortunately, to make mistakes because people will jump and they will. And that I am not afraid to take down videos. I've taken down multiple of my videos, just put them on private. I'll keep the likes.
I feel like I'm the opposite.
I can't handle I posted a video about the new Dahmer series where I was feeling very uncomfortable with people sexualizing that character. And I got crucified in the comments. And so I was like, I don't want to hear people, because they weren't just attacking that opinion. They were attacking me personally, talking about how I looked, talking about how I interacted, talking about horrible things about me. And I was like, all right, I'm not listening to this. So it's like, at this point, I used to feel like I had to keep videos up to prove a point, but now it's like, I so don't care. I'd rather not deal with it. And it's like, you don't exist in a vacuum on TikTok. The things you say do have impact. And I've made mistakes there. I've definitely said things that were a little inflammatory and I regretted saying them. And I think probably every creator has at some point said something that they weren't too fond of.
No, I'm perfect.
We all live within our own worlds and perspectives, and we're not always going to get it right. And that's just the truth of everybody, especially the more privilege you have. So it's just
why it's so important for all of us to talk. I think that's why we made this podcast, right? We wanted to have more women talking about this stuff unabashedly. And I think we've been really good about that. Being unabashedly vocal about our feelings and opinions around horror. And then if we get it wrong, I hope someone is very vocal with us as well. Because if I have something to learn and I say something wrong, please fucking tell me. Because I will fix it. I will make it right the best I can.
Totally agree there.
So I can't believe we did this entire episode and not one time, but the very beginning, I barely talked about Ripley.
Oh my goodness. No, I'm so sorry. My only thought, this is really terrible. The forefront of my thought about Alien is this is an incredibly moist movie.
It's very wet.
It's so scary. Is the production design is gorgeous.
I love the eager designs. Yeah.
Excited because I literally just saw it. It was like I'd never seen Alien before.
Did you watch both or just one?
I watched Aliens as well. Yeah.
You did?
That's
okay.
The best one.
What did you? Yeah. What did you think? Because that's my favorite. But what did you like between them?
I like different aspects about both of them. Obviously, they're both like overtly feminist. It's a female character that is being told down the whole movie and you're like, God, shut up, she knows what she's doing. Aliens, I definitely saw a lot more of James Cameron's influence, of course, because he directed it. And so there were things that I was like, this kind of feels like I'm watching like a scary version of Titanic in some way.
Yeah.
But I saw both of them in like different ways. I'm not sure. I think I would have to sit a little bit more before
I thought Titanic was scary, just to clarify.
Just what it is.
But I don't also like, how is Billy Zane not hotter than Leonardo DiCaprio? I just don't get it.
I will say, when I watched Aliens, I absolutely flipped because the guy from Hellraiser 2, the doctor's assistant, is also in that. And when I saw him, I was just so excited because I just love that movie so much.
That's awesome.
So good.
Aliens is definitely my favorite because of Ripley's arc. In the first film, you do see her getting talked down to a lot, and nobody's listening to her. She's giving the most sound advice and making the best decisions along the way, and nobody's paying any attention to her. By the end, she survives because nobody has to listen to her anymore. She's like the only one, so she just does what she wants, right, to get out of there. And so she does. But in the second one, you could see that she's like, nope, you're going to listen to me. And she's like shaking people at that point, to listen to her. And if they don't, she's going to do it anyways. Like, she's not asking for permission. She's just doing her thing. And Michael, oh my God, the way that character simps for her from beginning to end makes me so happy, because that doesn't happen. Usually they're still like annoying and like, oh yeah, okay, you know what I'm talking about? Like, you could tell that they like her and they respect her, but not as a person fully, not really. But he like listens to her the whole time, respects her the whole time, doesn't mansplain even how to use a gun, hands it to her and says, do you know how to use this? And she says, no, can you show me? He's like, and then like shows her some stuff and then realizes that she's got it and backs off. Like, perfect.
There's a certain badassery of female characters that's happened throughout film history that, like with Ripley, is done well, where she's a person. Or we think of, as much as I love Angelina Jolie's characters in a lot of the early 2000 movies. I love Tomb Raider. I love Salt. They're not great movies, but they're the male gaze version of a badass woman. She's sexy, but there's not much there, right? Mostly visual. It's fun, but Ripley feels like a real person, and she's badass and a real person.
She is.
Yeah, and I think it made room for more horror-centric female protagonists, like Erin in You're Next, who's just fucking badass. You mentioned Grace in Ready or Not. She didn't just survive, she fought back. She was smart. I love that. I love those characters so much. Those are some of my favorites. And Sigourney Weaver is one of those actresses who made those movies happen. Literally made them happen. Like, James Cameron almost lost most of his cast and crew on that set if it wasn't for Sigourney Weaver making him apologize to them and bringing them back to the table.
Maybe
that
they
movie
should've
wouldn't have
poisoned the
happened.
child like they did on Titanic. It did.
Yeah. She's exactly what we were talking about earlier. An actor who not only made the character, but was a voice on the set, was a leader on the set. I love her. Her and Gina Davis are two of my biggest Hollywood heroes. And growing up, their films were the films that empowered me, or I guess influenced me more than any other films. I was obsessed with Bad Girls because of Gina Davis. I wanted to be a cowgirl because of Madeline Stowe and Bad Girls. Gina Davis made me want to be a pirate because of Cutthroat Island, and the way she was in A League of Her Own, and how she was both embracing who she wanted to be in her future while still being a feminist. If that isn't like the perfect combination of what people say feminism isn't. Like, she wanted to get married, have kids, but she also was a feminist and was all about making sure that her sister and her could play baseball.
Just like Diane Keaton in Baby Boom.
Yes.
It's true, though. That movie I thought I was going to hate, and then I loved it. But Gina Davis has a documentary out about women in the film industry and a book.
Yeah.
Well.
She's got a whole foundation, the Gina Davis Foundation, which is all about making sure that women are treated equally and paid fairly in Hollywood. These are the women that made some of the things possible that are happening today that I think are so great. What are they called? Sensitivity coordinators, I think is what they're called. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Intimacy coordinators. That didn't exist probably until someone like Sigourney Weaver or somebody made sure that happened and made that a thing. Did that? Who thought that up? Who made that happen? I bet it was a woman. I bet it was a woman.
I don't know. So, absolutely. They definitely were in the theater industry. Like, the forefront of intimacy coordinators were definitely women. So I imagine they probably are in film too.
Isn't the woman that got cast as Pearl's mother, she was originally the intimacy coordinator on X? Didn't you make a video about that, Justine?
Yes. I read an article about it. Yeah, so Ty West hired an intimacy coordinator for X. He saw something in her, he really liked her, and he asked her to audition for Pearl. because they were, of course, filming Pearl.
They started at the same time, and she's from New Zealand, but even the people that were German were like, we couldn't tell. She seems so German. She's so good.
Yeah, and I think that's so cool. And I think that there's certain directors that I'm starting to really gravitate towards because you get a sense of the way that they treat their characters and the actors and the people that work with them. And you can see it. You can see it on film. You can see it in the way that those people keep wanting to work with them.
Yeah.
And that makes me love those directors because we have such a horrible history of directors treating women horrifically, especially in horror, that when I see certain directors make monumental films, Mike Flanagan, Ty West, with things that I could see happening in maybe the 70s if that film was made, horrible things happening to those actors and actresses, making them today, and they're so successful and they're doing so right by these people, and these people are working with them over and over again because of it. That's encouraging, and that's going to change the genre. That's going to change the film industry. So support those people.
I might be a little early because I don't know anything about this director personally, but I'm about to give her my soul and body. Is that I love Julia DeCurno's work so much. She's blown my mind with Raw and then Titane. Not like it needed to even be solidified.
Yeah.
Her work is she writes and directed both films. Those are her only 2 feature length. I think that not only is she incredible as a director, but as a storyteller, and there's not enough people that see Titane, but there's a lot of interesting things that I'm not sure how much of it is direct and how much of it is inadvertent. I think it's a mixture of both about what can be said about gender in that film. There's just so many layers to, especially Titane. And I love them both. I think I don't compare them to each other, but I am gonna like Anna. My New England me wants to say Anna Lily and Mirpur. Those 2 directors, like I'll do anything for you to make another movie, please. I will give my blood sacrifice. Make another movie, please.
I'm really inclined to compare those 2 to those horror greats that we alluded to earlier that are white men, and not in a bad way, but
no, I didn't mean to do that to you. I didn't mean it that way. Like,
no, I want to. I'm saying I'm going to compare them right now because there's something about John Carpenter that made him incredibly successful, in my opinion, is his ability to build tension and leave some ambiguity there. That's something that Anna Lily Amirpour does really well. But there's also things like the way that Robert Eggers is producing very art house and again ambiguous, leave it up to interpretation.
I wasn't crazy about it, except for Ethan Hawke's thighs. That was like 5 out of 5, but the rest of the movie was
that's literally the one film that he's made that is not anything to do with what I'm talking about. Tells a story without telling you a story. She's doing a good job of leaving everything to an ambiance, almost like a design, and she's never actually outright telling you anything. You are making these discoveries with the characters, or you're not discovering anything. You're just along for the ride, which is how I felt Titane was where like, I still don't know what I was supposed to discover from that, but it was a ride and it was really visually beautiful.
I'm not steering the conversation away, but another director that did 2 great movies, Jennifer Kent, who did The Babadook and
The Nightingale.
The Nightingale of rape
and the
in
monster.
film. And there's one woman wrote an interesting it was in 2019 article in Vulture, and she used that, thought it was overly done in Nightingale, which can be left to interpretation. So I think, and I liked Nightingale, but there was parts of it that I felt were more than I thought needed to be personally. But anyway, but anyway, did you, Crystal, you loved Titane, right?
I did. Yeah. I don't really, again, like, I agree with Justine. I don't really know what I really took from it.
So what did you feel, Jill?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you got it right away, or
Me?
you?
Oh, sorry. I definitely did not hear my name. I have seen Raw, and I loved Raw. I have not seen.
My God!
And I know I need to watch it. I feel like
It's
it will.
wild.
I am such a fan of Julia DeCornell. Is such a visceral director. It's like she gets inside your bones.
Perfect word for it.
Oh my God! Even
yeah,
more so.
Titane is the most visceral one for sure.
Yeah.
Is it? Because it's triggering. Obviously, I haven't seen it, but I feel like I've seen people talk about it triggering Possessor. Did y'all see Possessor?
I
I
haven't
did.
seen it.
It's like a
That's
sci-fi
a
horror. I
baby.
think
It's a baby Cronenberg. It's Brandon
Cronenberg, yeah,
Cronenberg.
that's
Yeah.
all I've. That's
Yeah.
all I know about it.
Brandon Cronenberg.
Yeah.
it was. I didn't know what I was supposed to take out of it. I watched it and I was like, I don't really get it. I thought it was
Yeah.
beautiful though, and I thought it was really interesting, and I'm sure there's a lot of really wonderful things I could take from it if I really thought about it.
I think
it
Raw
just-
was more straightforward. Raw was more straightforward and still ambiguous, and Titane was
for sure.
very visceral and way less straightforward.
Comparing
Possessor.
Possessor, I can see the comparison. I
Yeah.
thought, and maybe it's just because it's me and who I am. Titane resonated more with me. I liked what is it, processor or processor?
Possessor.
Like
It's
possessed.
it's like she can't even say the name of the movie. I
I
think she's
know.
but I felt like I don't want to. It's not a more straightforward movie, but I felt like I emotionally understood it more. But I did like.
Yeah. I'm excited to see where she goes. What is she
You have to
tackling
see- I
next?
can't wait. I like if you make a TikTok about it, if you choose to, Jules, tag me in it because I love Titane so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fucking-
I'll at least let you know what I thought about it for sure.
Oh,
This-
I fucking love that movie so much. Julia, you could have my soul. Something like I don't know. I don't know anything about her personally. There was a great interview with her where the interviewer started the interview trying to be cute. He wasn't trying to be degrading.
Yeah.
But he said, "What's a nice girl like you doing in a genre like this?" And she made the slightest of faces, but then composed herself immediately, and she just went on with the conversation about. And that was after Raw. It was about Raw.
Yeah.
The interview,
like-
and I could see it on her face though.
There's some wild questions that women get asked in interviews, like actors, directors, whole 9 yards.
Us. I don't know how
Yeah.
many times. If I could record every person's face when I tell them that my favorite movies are horror movies, I literally wear a horror movie shirt almost every single day, and they still are like, "What?" How many times do you get asked, "What do you know about horror? Or why do you like horror? What's your favorite horror movie?" But not like I want to know your favorite horror movie so I can know more about you. More like of an inquisitive, so I can judge you.
Or how much do you really know? But when someone questions,
I like to be that person now to everybody else. I'm that person.
The one question I get, I
To
think
dudes.
I've been fortunate where I get more friendly interaction more often, or but
Same.
but
Yeah.
I don't have a very big audience. But the question I see more often is, what's it like to be a female horror fan? And it's not a bad question, but it's like, how am I supposed to answer that? Because it feels like if someone were to say, "What's it like to be a horror fan with a size 8 shoe?" It's like, I can't really say. I can say what it's like for me.
Where's my
but
basis for comparison?
Yeah.
you don't like. And again, I'm a specific type of woman from a specific place and specific experience and specific preferences. It's just I don't like answering generalized questions. I'm starting to sweat just thinking about it. I don't like. I brought it up and I'm like, I do not like that. People
I'm
mean
the
nice
opposite
way,
of
but-
Emma in that way. I'm really quick to give my opinion and be hard and fast with whatever to people. But I am like you in the way that, Emma, I have been fortunate. The few things that I've mentioned today about experiences that I've had happen very rarely. That's why they're so specific. Like me talking about Danny from Midsummer is one. That Friday the 13th thing about Jason being afraid of water happened last year, Friday the 13th. I rarely remember it because those are the only experiences I've had where someone was bold enough to try to attack me in my comment section without me eviscerating them. Because I don't fucking care. I don't mind. I'll do it. And I do it in your guys' comments whenever someone says something
You
rude.
do.
I'm like, I go after them. I
You totally
embarrass them. Like, because I have zero regret for my feelings or I don't fucking care. And I have all the privilege to do it. And all the audacity that these little white men have. I have that too. Let me use it.
Yeah.
So
I always wonder
yeah.
if like, there's a degree of me not looking like super like I wouldn't look at me and be like, that's a horror fan. You know what I mean? Like I'm a little I have more of a
You don't have
like,
a chest tattoo. You don't have
black
a chest
hair and
tattoo.
demon
Oh, yeah.
horns.
I have more of a little bit of a brighter like aesthetic. But it's so because I get a lot of it could just be because I talk about sexual assault a lot in terms of how much I dislike it obviously in film, and that apparently hits a soft spot for people in the wrong way. It's interesting because I had someone comment, it's like I don't even know what I said. They were like, what would you know about this? And I was like, I actually have like my master's degree in film. And they said, I kid you not, they said, going to film school doesn't mean you know about film. Thing I've ever heard in my life. I literally
I
what
love
I
how
read.
they're the expert on what is known then. Like, so what is it? What could I possibly tell you to
Yeah.
convince
I've
your
seen,
dumb,
Yeah.
ignorant ass that I have
I've
your
seen
fucking approval?
the director's commentary for Evil Dead like 8 times, so I think I know what I'm fucking
Yeah.
talking about. And to see,
I-
the thing is, that's true about me. I have seen it 8 times, but it doesn't make me more of a horror fan than anybody else or more knowledgeable. It
I
means
am the first person
a
to say
bit
I
more
know
about Evil
fuck
Dead.
all.
That's it.
Like, I know my opinions and I know what I read once in a while or hear once in a while. But I
Yeah.
am the most unprepared person that comes onto this podcast. I literally never take notes. I never do an ounce of research that Emma does. She is one of the smartest people I know when it comes
Don't
to
say
horror.
that. No,
And she
that's a
fucking hates it when I say that, but it's true. It's true.
But not because I don't think I'm smart. I just think it's just that there is a lot I don't know about film.
But there's
I
a
can
lot
connect
everyone doesn't know about film.
Literally all of us.
It's too much pressure. I can't
I
handle
know.
it.
I know.
I literally I got my education in screenwriting, and I'll read screenplays sometimes and completely forget like the 8 conventions I was supposed to know about to why something is happening, and I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
guess that
no.
for expensive education out the door.
What is the experience writing a screenplay? Because I have a book about it. I don't know much, but I know that it's a very specific format and it's very brief, so, which is intimidating to me. What's it like reading them as opposed to writing them? Or what can you say about like brevity of them is like intimidating, isn't it? For me, I would think.
So there's an interesting dynamic. So I am like a pure screenwriter. That sounds weird, a pure screenwriter, but so writer-directors write very differently from how just regular screenwriters do. Because writer-directors like little notes to themselves in it, and like a lot of conventions that because they're directing the film. It's not to say that you can't break said rules, because you always can, but there are a lot of rules. You can't write an emotion down. That's like not a big no-no. You can't like talk about what shot you would see happening in a specific thing unless it's like very important to the plot line. So it is very like confined in a way. And writing horror is interesting because there's only so much you can describe. So you can be poetic, but you can't be too poetic. And I feel like horror lends itself to being a little poetic because of how intense it can get. I wrote my thesis film, which was a horror film, and I got so weird. I got such a kick out of figuring out how I was going to kill people. That was like
what was your film? How would you describe your film?
Okay, so it's called Squeal. And it is about 4 fat women from varying backgrounds who are invited to a fraternity party called a pig party, where they like basically invite fat women and they crown like the prize pig, whoever they think is like the ugliest fat girl. But of course, the fraternity has other plans, and it becomes like this whole big war against like the women trying to escape the house, basically. And I based a lot of the people in it on people I knew, which most screenwriters do, and it's not obvious.
Did you let them read it?
No,
neither.
Like the kills in it are very intense. There's one where like antler goes right through the eyeball and out the back.
Nice, very Linnea Quigley type of death. I love it.
There's a keg that just smashes someone's head in. Like a fan cuts a jugular and then they fall on a countertop and get completely decapitated. Like, so the people that those people are based on, I probably would not let them read that.
Have you seen the French film Fat Girl?
I am very interested. I do want to watch it. I am very scared. I'm scared.
You should be. Oh, the thing is, it's not so much. So there's a big topic of it is about emotional and physical rape. So there is that. That's the part that but I think there's something that there's something relatable to the girl that is the titular character of how she's just not seen. And then I haven't seen Piggy yet, which a lot of people are recommending, which was, I've seen the short film, but I have not seen the full length one. Have you seen that one?
I have yet to. It's hard. I think it's really difficult for me to watch fat horror because it's very often that the fat person in that horror film is going to be pretty brutally hurt in some way, whether it's bullying or whether it's this and that. They typically are the victims. And there's this movie that I really love because I think it's probably one of the only movies I've seen where a fat character has agency. It's called Pledge. It's just like about, it's like these guys are trying to get into a fraternity and things go haywire. It's like this short version of it. But the fat character is the final girl, final boy in this case, just whatever. But I just felt that was so refreshing. I was like, thank God that we can have a fat character in a movie that is authentic and that is not just being absolutely shredded apart before they can have their retribution.
It's hard to have a movie with a character that is not, well, let's say they're not even fat. They're not what Hollywood considers thin without them making like food jokes. Like you watch like Grease, there's like one girl that's
Jan, are you
Twinkies.
kidding me? She's
just wearing a baggy sweater.
I know.
She's just wearing a baggy sweater. That's it.
Weird.
And I love Grease, even though it's not a great story, but it's fun enough. But it's
it drives me crazy when sized women who are being portrayed as the fat character.
She's just got a baggy sweater on.
Well, like Beanie Feldstein, who I think is just, I love Beanie Feldstein, but she's just short. She's just short and a little.
Was she the one with Shouldergate? Shouldergate? Was that her?
What was Shouldergate?
Where she was on Broadway and they like added sleeves to the dress.
The
main character's dress.
And she's not plus size, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like, for her to be portrayed as, they're like, this is fat representation. I'm like, she's literally not plus size. Like, I don't know if that's, and it's so wonderful to have people like Adie Bryant, who's making waves, but she's also she's a very conventionally attractive straight white woman. She's curvy in all the right places, and it's really hard to find fat representation, especially in horror. That isn't just,
I want to see my body type up there at some point, which is plus size apple, because that's never on screen.
Because you guys got the big boobies. You got to be the thin apples. That's what they put on there.
Yeah.
Thin everybody.
Oh, Cameron Diaz is an apple. That doesn't count. Yeah.
I couldn't tell when you're
maybe
thin,
a rectangle. I don't know.
I can't.
I don't fucking know anymore.
I
The
tell
shapes we're relegating
thin.
to our bodies now. But I know that I've never seen a girl who's shaped like me on screen ever. Maybe one, but she's never the lead ever. And usually I can't remember her name. She's just now gotten a show. So maybe I could eat it. I don't know. But I don't think she's plus size. I just think she's on the larger average.
like at this point, sometimes the larger average is like, yeah, exactly.
No.
Anywho, again, this is why I love this podcast. And I really wanted to hear from you on your script writing stuff. What brought you to write a story or a script about plus size women who were getting murdered like that?
Small spoiler, none of them die, and really none of them are in any horrific situations. Like, they are all incredibly strong-willed women who fight back at every point they can. I was really determined to write a story where women were not being tortured, but it really showed the traumatic aspects of being a woman, especially a fat woman, and especially based a lot of the characters off of people I knew. And my best friend is plus size and Muslim. She was one of the characters that I put in this film, and I've literally never seen anyone that looks like me on screen. I think she's right. I can't think of a single plus size Muslim character that I've ever seen on screen. And so it's just the idea that women should be able to be in a horror film without being horrifically tortured and have agency and be strong. And then B, in my earlier drafts, I got a comment from one of my male professors saying that he thought maybe I should kill one of the girls off to make it have higher stakes. And I was like, hell no. The other thing about it is that they don't actually kill anyone until the very end when they finally come around to everything. But the men in it die by their own stupidity, which I think should also be happening more often.
Very Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Well. I love that.
It sounds good. I like it.
Me too. One of the things that I love about our podcast is we do have a Discord. We really enjoy this Discord partly because the conversation continues. But It's a good community that we're trying to build around horror. I think that this podcast has been a lot of fun and it's been life-changing for me. So I'm so glad that you were able to join us this
Thank
week,
you guys so much for
especially
having
for
me.
women in horror. Coming
Yeah.
from someone who's writing about women, which is fucking love it. Yeah, so join our Discord and stay in it if you'd like.
Yeah.
Everybody else who's listening or watching on YouTube or where podcasts are listened to, don't forget to click the links in the bio. We do have a Discord. We have a Patreon if you'd like to support this podcast further. Keep it going, make it a little easier for us to get things done. Join our Patreon. It's a lot of fun. You'll get merch. You get access to movie nights. We also get access to Slasher Chat, which is the mortuary chat in our Discord. So you can vote on things, AMAs, stuff like that. Is there anything you want to plug?
No.
FilmScum 2.0 if you're on TikTok.
Yes, FilmScum 2.0.
One thing I do remember, there's a movie that, have you seen Wake and Fright, Juliet?
I've heard of it for sure.
Okay, so it's a very masculine movie, but I think it has the best way to depict a rape scene, which we don't see it at all, but the tension is totally there. It's an upsetting scene without seeing anything. Yeah, I think it's the best way it's ever been depicted is in that movie Wake and Fright.
Were you the one that agreed with me that in Revenge that it was a very graphic rape scene?
Yes, 100%.
How are we? I'm still blown away by this. I feel like there has to be multiple versions out there. I don't understand it.
She's also very hypersexualized. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I don't think it's as revolutionary as it was initially.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like
a lot of people are saying it wasn't graphic at all. Like it was a very what was it? What was the terms that was used? It was a very, I forget what sensitive depiction.
Yeah, maybe it was that.
Sensitive depiction of rape. Does that make sense?
That's not the word. That's not the word. I think it was some sort of like way of saying something was tasteful. Tasteful. Yeah. It was a tasteful depiction of SA where you don't necessarily see it, where it's more implied. And I'm like,
I feel like you see
it. I felt like we saw it.
Like up against a window saw it.
To me, any type of, even if you can't see what is happening, to me, any type of thrusting automatically, I can't do it. I can't. It's
no,
like
Wake and Fright.
What SA scenes out there?
I don't want to give Wake and Fright. We see because it's about this like masculinity, and these two characters are like play fighting like the way dogs do. But then there's like an intensity in the air, and just the way it's shot, we know it's gonna happen, but we don't even see it implied. We know it's gonna happen, and then we know the next morning what happened without it being explicit. Yeah, I think it's. So I'd love to hear your opinion about that movie whenever you get the chance. Yeah,
I'll definitely watch
it. It does take place during Christmas, so it's not Christmassy at all. It's Australia in the heat and sweaty men, but it's.
I just think it's weird because you guys know that SA scenes they don't bother me personally. They bother me that they bother other people when they're unnecessary. That bothers me, and sometimes the way people talk about them bothers me. Your favorite movie is Last House on the Left. That's your favorite.
Well, which
That's
one?
your favorite movie?
Yeah, I get a little.
I Spit on Your Grave is your favorite horror movie of all time. Is it?
It's like half of that movie is the SA part of it. The original. I haven't seen the have I seen the remake?
My point is like they don't particularly bother me. They can be very interesting indicators, but the way that they bother other people, I just don't think it's worth it. And I care about other people's feelings. So when I heard someone say that the SA in Revenge was implied and wasn't really, you don't really see it, I'm like thinking, wait, but I remember it. And for someone who doesn't really bother as much, if I remember it, I just don't, did I see a different movie? And it's driving me crazy.
Yeah. I don't know why that, maybe it's the only thing I can think of is because we don't actually see the bottom half down. We don't see anything.
We rarely do.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
We do. I remember it too. I remember her shorts, her jean shorts getting pulled down.
Oh no, you see that. Yeah, you see. I think they mean like as it's happening. You don't see it obviously, but I mean, it's still
maybe I know.
I just don't think that
even in a Serbian film, which I hate to say, I'm an expert on that movie because I'm a piece of garbage. I don't like that movie. I'm gonna put it that way. I don't like it, but I had to understand it because I am an awful person. And
no,
I know that's just how. Anyway, I had to know. Even in that movie, we're not seeing any P going in any V. or any B.
I've
There's
never
no
seen it
there's
on
no
screen,
No.
except for
penetration
Nymphomaniac.
in that
I-
movie, and it's
yeah.
a very obviously a graphic movie. So I don't know why that's always like we don't see it go
Yes.
when it's not a porn.
I think people are,
Nymphomaniac.
and maybe this makes a
They
lot of
hired
sense.
porn
Well,
stars.
there's that, but
I feel like people are quicker to forgive female directors for those scenes, which I totally understand because obviously they probably have more of a connection to it. Like, I think in particular MFA, which I saw the first half of and I couldn't watch anymore because, like, after that scene is quite literally the most graphic sexual assault scene that I've seen in any movie. MFA.
has Clint
I see that
Eastwood's
one.
daughter in it.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, she is.
And it's just, it is really graphic. Like, you see pretty much everything. I can't even imagine how they pulled it off with the intimacy coordination. It's like very graphic, very unsettling. And I've seen a lot of people really celebrate that film as well. And I'm sure it's a great film, but at the same time, it's like, to your point, it is such obviously for women to be SA'd, and I think it is a very common trigger. And I think that often it just triggers way too many people.
I know MFA is from what I've heard, because the conversation I heard come up about the movie MFA was in parallel to the popularity of Promising Young Woman, because there was a lot of controversy about how taking it upon yourself to take revenge for somebody that was raped when they might not have wanted that. And what happens in, do you guys mind if I spoil MFA for you?
I don't care. I'm probably never going to see it. I've never even heard of it.
The reason I have seen people say things positive about MFA, Juliet's completely right. It's a very graphic rape scene in the beginning, and it's upsetting to watch. Not an easy watch. But the reason I've seen people say good things about it has been about the fact that she takes it upon herself to be like a champion of people sexually assaulted, because she accidentally kills her assailant, and then she gets a power from it. And then her best friend, she finds out, had been assaulted and then kills that guy. And then her friend, she's like, I just wanted to forget. I didn't want to think
Wait,
about
have
that.
I seen this?
I was sexually assaulted. I just wanted to forget. I don't know. I just wanted to forget about it. I didn't want anything done about it. And then that character ends up killing herself. So it was more about the conversation of revenge more so than, but again, the conversation still is rape and sexual assault. That's the only time I saw such positive conversations about it, was in parallel to Promising Young Woman, which I think had its positives too. But I think what's important in that movie is the conversation that the main character had with the mother of the former friend, where the mother's, you should just forget about this.
I feel
this
like
is not what she wanted.
I think that commentary is incredibly important, that handles SA in a very different way. There's no prescriptive way to handle it, and I don't think it's fair to judge people for the way that they handle it. And I think some people even appreciate those scenes in that way. They like feel like it's retribution for them. They feel like, oh, I know people that have been, and they really like movies that are rape revenge films. So I think that there is different ways of handling things.
I love a good revenge film. I do.
Have you guys seen Violation?
I've seen Irreversible, and that one I did not enjoy at all.
Violation, say the SA scene is similar to that of Revenge. You do see it. So the most graphic one, but it is that kind of scene. I think there's intentionally made, also directed by a woman, murkiness around it, because there's always that conversation in real life of, was it really clear to him that? But one thing I do really like about Violation is that after she kills her rapist, she's in a parking lot, and she sees a husband pushing his wife around and yelling at her, and she speaks up, but then her voice is shaking. So it's not the catharsis you think. The movie is more about the idea of rape revenge isn't what you think it is. It's just adding trauma on top of trauma. And I'm not saying it's perfectly done, because it's such a hard topic to cover, but it is worth watching, and it definitely adds to the conversation in a very interesting way.
What I did like about Revenge was the fact that it showed what happens when you reject certain men and how they react when they think that you are a sexual human because of what you're doing or the choices you're making around them somehow gave them permission. And when you reject them, the amount of violence that they can impart on you. And that is something that needs to always be in the conversation, because I'm so sick of hearing like, why didn't you say no? Why didn't you tell him to fuck off? I touched on that a little earlier.
you're at the party, or what kind of guy he was, and all that stuff. Or like, tell me you didn't think you'd get something out of it, because wasn't he like, he was her boyfriend, or like guy she was
It wasn't her
friends.
boyfriend, it was her friends. Yeah, his friends.
His friends, yeah.
His
Who's like
friends,
a powerful
yeah.
man of some sorts. I don't
Yeah,
really remember.
I don't even, it's irrelevant actually to the story. I don't think they ever address what he does or who he is. It's just implied he's obviously got money.
A work friend sort of thing.
The girl that he's
Girlfriend,
seeing right now, but very much an object to him and his friends. Yeah, I don't know. I think that there are good discussions to be had. I think that we've been having discussions around SA and women in film for so long, and it's been so murked up with poor depictions or irrelevant depictions or depictions where it's not actually adding to the film. It has nothing to do with the plot of the film. It's just typically it's a plot device to make the man seem even more egregious than he already was. The times I don't like it is when it's a plot device just to add to somebody's villainy, to make them even worse than they are.
You know,
It is.
Yeah.
it's like a fantasy of what that actually is.
Yeah.
It's not real.
Oh, way worse when it's meant to help a guy be more of a like hero suddenly.
Oh
that
my
is
gosh,
the most
those
annoying.
I mean, I hate to say that, but
Go
there
on.
are movies where they want to show this rape scene to be sexy, and that's gross.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. And I think it's so hard. I just it fills me with such visceral feelings.
We don't have to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's okay. We can move away from it now.
But I just want to say,
Sorry.
I really encourage anybody to watch Wake and Fright and let me know what you think about that scene. I don't mean to hype it up so much. It's not, the movie isn't all about that. It happens to be part of it, which is also part of why I like it so much. Wake and Fright, let me know what you think, anybody that sees it.
Okay. Oh, until next time. Bye-bye.